You're watching International News Desk live on ECWA Television Africa. Those are the main stories this evening. Biden says US and Germany are working in lockstep on Ukraine crisis. On politics, COVID-19 represses race to change Duterte as Philippine president. North Korea built secret new base for ICBM, says US think tank. Still, the US agrees on $100 million deal for Taiwan Patriot missiles. And firefighters' doors blaze at Aberdare National Park. Stay with me for details of main stories and other stories. The United States President Joe Biden on Monday has said the United States and Germany are working in lockstep to deter Russian aggression in Europe as he met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz at the White House. Amidst rising tensions in Eastern Europe, Scholz held in-person talks with Biden on February 7th for the first time since coming to power in Germany late last year. According to Scholz, we are close as allies and working intensely together, and this is necessary for doing the steps that we have to do in fighting against Russian aggression against Ukraine, so it's an important meeting at a very important time. The meeting came hours after the United States and the European Union expressed firm support for a strong and resilient Ukraine following a meeting of the United States and European Union Council. Europe depends heavily on Russian energy exports, and weeks of ongoing tensions along with the Russia-Ukraine border have powered fears that Moscow could cut European nations off from grave supplies. The US and EU said in a joint statement, aware of the fast-changing energy landscape and the continued risk to energy security, including cybersecurity of energy infrastructure, the US and EU Energy Council works to enhance energy security and promote energy diversification. The Russian military has been gathering troops near the country's border with Ukraine, igniting a diplomatic crisis and increasing US and European fears that Russia may be preparing for an impending invasion of its neighbors. Russia has denied that it is preparing to invade Ukraine, but it has stubbornly resisted the country's efforts to join NATO. Moscow also is looking for security assurances that the US-led alliance will stop its extension into former Soviet republics, but Washington and NATO have banned the demand as a non-starter while saying they are open to deliberating arms control measures in Europe. Germany has taken a less forceful approach to Russia than some of its Western allies, refusing to send weapons to the Ukrainian army, a move that gathered reproach from Kyiv. But Scholz and Biden appear to present a united front on Monday. The US president said, to state the obvious, Germany is one of America's closest allies working in lockstep to further prevent Russia hostility in Europe and to address the challenges posed by China and promote stability in the Western Balkans. It is important that the US and Europe speak with one voice, calling Russia's posture towards Ukraine a serious threat to European security, Scholz said. We made it very clear if there is a military aggression against Ukraine, this will entail severe consequences that we have agreed upon together, he added. In Zamboanga del Norte, Philippines, striding in the midst of a crowd of supporters, Vice President Leni Robredo walked prudently as a group of teens started to gather around her, lifting their phones' cameras ready to take selfies. The presidential candidate obliged her mask-wearing fans as her staff repeatedly reminded the growing crowd to keep their distance because of COVID-19 restrictions. More supporters stood by, waving handmade placards and rose-colored banners with Robredo's image, shouting her name in unity. Shouting and dancing to the booming live music playing for a dance troupe that was shaking and twirling in native costume as it welcomed the Philippines' highest-ranking female official. Robredo and other candidates have been forced to adjust an electoral landscape turned upside down by COVID-19 as the campaign season officially kicks off on Tuesday. Since the 1986 People Power protest and the restoration of democracy, elections for president and vice president had taken place every 6 years, with Filipinos also voting for 12 senators, more than 300 House members, and about 18,000 local positions from governors to town council members in a circus-like political jamboree that lasts 3 months. Trailing in the polls, Robredo is looking to whip up her supporters and pull off another come-from-behind victory on May 9th, as she did in 2016 when she was elected vice president. Standing against her and currently the most popular candidate to replace President Rodrigo Duterte is Ferdinand Marcos Jr., son and namesake of former dictator Ferdinand Marcos Sr., whose brutal rule was brought to an end by the 1986 protests. After 6 years of strongman rule under Duterte, who is barred from running for president a second time, the stakes could not be higher. There are an estimated 65.74 million registered voters in the country. A presidential candidate only needs a plurality, winning more votes than any other candidates to win. The facility is one of approximately 20 ballistic missile operating bases that North Korea is yet to declare, according to CSIS, and is located in a small isolated wooded mountain valley of Changgang province, approximately 25 kilometers, that's 15.5 miles from the Chinese border. The Hyunjin-ni missile operating base, according to informed sources, like house a regiment-sized unit equipped with intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, it said. The Washington-based tank noted North Korea had test-fired a Hwasong-12 IRBM on January 30th from Changgang province, where the Hyunjin-ni base is located. CSIS estimates the missile has a range of 4,500 kilometers, that's 2,800 miles. The weapons launches have raised fear that North Korea leader Kim Jong-un might scrap a cessation on nuclear and long-range missile tests that he imposed on his country in 2018 in the wake of an unprecedented summit with former U.S. President Donald Trump. However, those talks broke down in 2019 amid differences between Kim and Trump on denuclearization and sanctions relief. North Korea has since refused calls from the U.S. for fresh talks. Meanwhile, United Nations experts said North Korea has continued to develop its nuclear and denuclearization and sanctions relief, and said in contravention of international sanctions. Experts say Pyongyang uses illicit money to fund its weapons programs, including attacks on cryptocurrencies exchanges. CSIS said the Hyunjin-ni base does not appear to have been the subject of any denuclearization negotiations previous conducted between the U.S. and North Korea. It added that as of January, there was no indication that a missile unit equipped with ICBMs had been deployed to this base. Now, the United States has agreed on a $100 million support contract with Taiwan, targeting at improving the island's missile defense systems amid rising tensions with China. The Pentagon said on Monday the funds will be used to sustain, maintain, and improve the self-ruled island's Patriot missile defense system. A statement from the U.S. Defense Security Corporation Agency, DSCA, said it has supplied the essential certification informing Congress following State Department approval for the state, which was demanded by Taiwan's de facto embassy in Washington. The DSCA, in a statement, said upgrades to the Patriot air defense system will help advance the security of the recipient and assist in maintaining political stability, military balance, economic, and progress in the region. This proposed sale serves U.S. national, economic, and security interests by supporting the recipient's continuing efforts to modernize its armed forces and to maintain a credible defensive capability, the agency said. China claims Taiwan as its own and has been stepping up pressure on the island ever since Tsai Ing-wen was first elected in 2016. Beijing has not ruled out the use of force to retake the island and has made repeated air sorties into Taiwan's air defense zone. Taiwan's foreign ministry said it highly welcomed the U.S. decision. In the face of China's continued military expansion and provocative actions, our country will maintain its national security with a solid defense and continue to deepen the close security partnership between Taiwan and the United States, it said in a statement. Still on the news, in Africa, a government forest official said on Monday a fire that raged for 2 days in Kenya's Aberdare National Park has been quenched after burning through hundreds of hectares of wilderness. The blaze began Saturday and loads of forest rangers, firefighters and volunteers had battled to control the fire from dispersion as suspicions of arson emerged. The park was engraved in history when Britain's Elizabeth II visited Kenya as a princess in 1952, received news of her father's death while staying at the Treetops Hotel, a remote game-watching lodge built high into a tree in the Aberdare forest. Samuel Uhure, the regional head of the Kenyan Forest Service, said according to reports, the fire is completely suppressed, adding that roughly 600 hectares, that's 1,480 acres of bushland, was incinerated. A conservation charity in Kenya, Rhino Ark, earlier said it had sent in helicopters to conduct aerial surveys of the area to approximate the level of damage to the forest cover. 35 trained firefighters have been deployed to Chopper on Southern Fire Line who are doing a decent job to help manage the fire, the group said on Twitter. Definitely, it is a fire caused by human activities, Rhino Ark official Adam Mangwe said as speculation mounted about the possibility of arson. The park lies some 100 kilometers, 60 miles north of the capital, Nairobi, in the Aberdare mountain range, the third highest mountain range in Kenya. It is home to spectacular waterfalls and lush bamboo jungles, as well as a variety of wildlife, including leopards, elephants, and critically endangered black rhinos. Up next, protesters in Sudan get fired with tear gas by security forces. In Sudan's capital, Khartoum, security forces fired tear gas to scatter protesters, where thousands took to the streets on Monday in the latest of a month-long string of demonstrations. The demonstrations are disapproving the October military coup that pushed the country into chaos. Protesters, mostly young men and women, paraded in the streets across Sudan, demanding an end to the military's takeover. They called for a fully civilian government to lead the country's now stalled transition to democracy. The coup has upended Sudan's transition to democratic rule, which was launched after 3 decades of suppression and international isolation under President Omar al-Bashir. The African nation has been on a delicate path to democracy since a popular revolution forced the military to remove al-Bashir in April 2019. Meanwhile, in Senegal, a static crowd parade in Dakar as team returns with AFCON trophy. On Monday, Senegal's victorious football team were treated to a hero's welcome when they landed back in the capital, Dakar, a day after winning the African Cup of Nations for the first time. A national holiday had been declared on Monday in recognition of the historic achievement, and tens of thousands of people turned out to welcome the players home. Senegal's president, Macky Sall, who traveled outside the country, cut short his foreign trip to return to Dakar and receive the players. Here you are on top of Africa. Thanks to your fighting spirit, your talent, and your commitment, you have brought back to us the pride and honor that marks great people, President Sall said. Senegal beat Egypt 4-2 on penalties in the final in Yaoundé, Cameroon, after the match ended 0-0 following extra time. The result was extra special for Senegal coach Aliou Cissé, who missed the decisive penalty in a shootout when Senegal lost the 2002 final against Cameroon. France sought country's petition, says Mali's prime minister. On Monday, Mali's prime minister accused France of having pursued the petition of the West African country during its military mission there, the latest flare-up in relations between Paris and Bamako. In a 45-minute speech to diplomats garnered at his request, Kokala Maiga denounced France, the former colonial power, and a vocal critic of the military regime that appointed him. However, Maiga stopped short of calling for the exit of the anti-jihadist force that France leads in Mali. He recognized that France's military intervention in 2013 had paused a jihadist insurgency that had already captured the north of the country and threatened the south. He argued that the French operation later turned into a de facto partition of the country. The jihadists were permitted to take refuge in part of Mali's territory, regroup, and return in force from 2014, said Maiga. And drawing a parallel with the Allied liberation of France at the end of World War II, he added, when the French judged that the U.S. presence was no longer necessary, they told the Americans to go. Tensions have been rising after French President Emmanuel Macron lashed out at the junta's failure to stick to a timetable for a return to civilian rule. Mali stepped up its denunciations of France after the West African bloc ECOWAS announced sanctions against Mali's military regime on January 9th. Bamako has accused Paris of having manipulated ECOWAS into its hardline against Bamako, a theme Maiga returned to in Monday's speech. A sad one from North Africa, Ryan Oram laid to rest in Morocco. Many stood in a cemetery to mourn in the remote forested hills of the northern Chefouan region, a few kilometers from the site of the accident, as an imam read funeral prayers. The boy's small coffin draped in a green sheet laid in the ground to the sound of religious chanting. Last Tuesday, the boy had fallen down a narrow 32-meter, 100-foot dry well, sparking a complex earth-moving operation to try to extract him without triggering a landslide. Sympathizers had flooded social media with messages of empathy and prayers that he will be brought out alive. On Saturday nights, crowds had cheered as rescue workers cleared away the final handfuls of soil to reach him, the end of a marathon digging operation in the village of Igboho in Morocco's Rif Mountains. However, their joy turned to grief when the royal cabinet of the North African nation announced that the boy was dead. King Mohammed V had called the parents to voice his condolences. Finally, Benin Republic, Sunday Igboho's detention has been extended by 6 months. Additional facts have surfaced as to the reason the detention period of Yoruba Nation activist Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, was stretched by 6 months. Igboho is being detained in a prison facility in Cotonou, Benin Republic, after he was arrested at Cardinal Bernardin International Airport, Cotonou, in July 2021. Shortly before he was arrested in Benin Republic, he had been declared wanted by the Nigerian government. An extradition request by the Nigerian government was blocked by a court in Benin on the grounds of further hearing, and Igboho has since been in detention in the neighboring country. The law in Benin Republic instructs that anyone standing trial over criminal matters should not stay longer than 6 months in custody unless the detention is extended by another 6 months, according to his lawyer, Olusegun Falola. Falola elucidates that the practice is to allow investigating authorities the essential time to do their job appropriately before the case is decided. He, however, clarified that there was no criminal charge against him and no extradition request from Nigeria so far. A preventive detention like that of Igboho is meant to keep accused persons in custody before trial on the assumption that releasing them will not be in the society's best interest, since there is the likelihood that the accused will likely commit more crimes if released in the course of the trial, he said. The lawyer, who said his team has done everything within the ambits of the law to get pardon for the besieged Yoruba Nation agitator, concluded that there was more to Igboho's trial than meets the eye. He said in this country, Benin Republic, anyone that is answering criminal charges and whose trial is yet to be decided can only stay in custody for 6 months. The incarceration will need to be extended every 6 months if the case is still pending, up to maximum of 5 years. That is our law. We have done everything so that he can be released, but the government has not granted our request. There is no criminal charge or offense or any evidence of any crime against him. They just want to keep him in custody. May God help us. We have done everything under our laws, but they are still holding onto him. This is all the stories for tonight. Earlier, I mentioned Biden says US and Germany are working in lockstep on Ukraine crisis. On politics, COVID-19 represses race to change Duterte as Philippine president. North Korea builds secret new base for ICBM, says US think tank. Still, the US agrees on $100 million deal for Taiwan Patriot missile. And firefighters douse blaze at Aberdare National Park. Many thanks for watching. Remember, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. That is coming from Mother Teresa. Please take care of yourself and each other. From all of us at Equa Television, good night.
Equa Talent Show, the Voice Edition, is here. Can you stand the truth? Are you ready to go through real training, having experienced coaches set high standards on this season of Equa Talent Show, the Voice Edition? Do you trust your voice to make your votes count? The emergence of the coaches to the artist and the scout for votes makes it all the more interesting. There are 3 coaches for you to blindly choose from besides the judges on this edition of the Equa Talent Show. Any coach you pick shall be your guide throughout the competition. To be part of the Equa Talent Show, the Voice Edition 2022, record a 2-minute video and send via WhatsApp to +234 704 611 2545 with an introduction of your name, the title of your song, your phone number, age, and state of origin. Entries starts from February 1st, 2022 and is open for Equa and non-Equa members all over Nigeria. For further inquiries, call 234 704 611 2545 or visit evangelartsofequa.com. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Equa Television. Hurry to register now as registration for Equa Talent Show, the Voice Edition 2022 is on.
Growing your faith starts by hearing the Word of God. On the Christian Faith with Reverend Professor Samuel Waje Quinyop, he provides a simple approach with clear biblical and theological background on core Christian beliefs to every Christian. Join Reverend Professor Samuel Waje Quinyop every Friday at 6 p.m. Central African Time for a compelling study and revelation on the Christian faith, with repeats Tuesdays at 1 p.m. exclusive to Equa Television Africa.
Equa International Choir Competition EICC 2022. ECHOA introduces first of its kind, the ECHOA International Choir Competition EICC 2022 by its prestigious TV station ECHOA Television Africa. Theme: